Hello Magic Makers, welcome to Storytime with Mombirella. This is a young adult fiction and may be inappropriate for some younger audiences. Mother Knows Best, A Tale of the Old Witch by Serena Valentino. Copyright Disney Enterprises Incorporated, 2018. Chapter 15, The Longest Night. All 6 of the witches stood silently in the courtyard, waiting for Sir Jacob to come down from the house. Gothel had thought they would all be meeting in the morning room, but it seemed Sir Jacob had other plans. Hazel, Gothel, and Primrose were wearing lovely dresses Gothel had recently picked out for them for the solstice. They were black, in keeping with their mother's tradition, but they were speckled with a cascade of embroidered silver stars that swirled down from their right shoulders, twisting around the bodice, and then becoming more spread out, like the night sky. When the stars reached their voluminous skirts, all 3 of the girls had decorated their hair with glittering stars. Lucinda, Ruby, and Martha had elected to wear the dresses they had arrived in. When Gothel looked more closely, she realized the silver embroidery on their bodices was in little star patterns. Though they hadn't changed their dresses, the odd sisters had arranged their hair in elaborate buns worn high on their heads, with long ringlets that hung on both sides of their faces. Their buns were adorned with silver stars that matched their earrings, and the magnificent necklaces Gothel had sent up to their room as solstice gifts. All 6 of them were bundled in white fur wraps and muffs to protect them from the cold. The purple twilight sky was starting to darken to the color of eggplants, and there was the stillness in the air that always told Gothel it was about to snow. She could feel the chill kissing her cheeks, likely turning them a rosy color like her sisters. She could see their breath. To Gothel, they all seemed like dragon witches, breathing smoke as they waited. "Will it be much longer, Gothel?" asked Primrose, clearly becoming impatient. "I'm not sure, Prim. Oh, wait, look! There he is." In the distance, they saw Jacob making his way down from the main house. He was carrying a torch, illuminating his skull-like features.
"Good evening, young witches. So sorry to keep you waiting,"
said Jacob when he finally got to the courtyard.
"Since this is my lady's first winter solstice during their reign as queens, I wanted to make the longest night an even more special occasion."
Gothel saw Jacob eyeing their guest. She hadn't had the opportunity to speak with him privately on the matter. She was even more curious now what he thought about the witches.
"I present for the very first time in our lands the Festival of Lights."
Jacob raised his torch, signaling Victor, who was watching from the house. And within moments, the entire house and its grounds were filled with the most magnificent light Gothel and her sisters had ever seen. "Oh, Jacob, it's remarkable." "Thank you," said Gothel, smiling at her sisters' happy faces.
"It's my pleasure, my queen,"
said Jacob, gesturing for all the witches to follow him.
"Come, my ladies, come out of the cold. Queen Gothel has arranged a magnificent feast for the celebration."
"Oh, Gothel, a feast?" asked Primrose, smiling. "The house is so beautiful, Gothel. Thank you," said Hazel. Gothel loved seeing her sisters so happy. "I wanted our first celebration together, without Mother, to be special. I wanted to make you happy. Please tell me you're happy." But they didn't have to answer. Within moments, she was enveloped in her sisters' embraces. "Thank you, Gothel," they squealed. "Thank you." "Yes, it's very beautiful," said the odd sisters, mesmerized by the lights from the house. The morning room looked especially brilliant from a distance. "That room there, it reminds us of the lighthouse of the gods." "Thank you. That was my intention." "Oh, you've been there?" asked Lucinda as they all followed Jacob through the vestibule and up the stairs leading them to the morning room. "No, I've only read about it." "We've never left the Dead Woods," said Gothel, sadly, as they entered the morning room. There were hundreds of skeletons quietly making their way out of the house and back to their graves. It became clear that Jacob had arranged for them all to light the candles at once. There wasn't a surface that wasn't covered in candles. The house was entirely filled with light, the way Gothel had imagined. As they entered the morning room, she was struck by the beauty of the solstice tree, placed in the center, stretching to the top of the glass dome overhead. The tree was covered in red glass hearts, birds, and glittering glass balls of various colors that sparkled in the candlelight. At the far end of the room was an altar with the small oil paintings of their ancestors, and in the center was a portrait of their mother. There were hazelnuts, tea, oranges, various fruits, and chocolates on the table, as well as a brass bell and a pretty teacup they only brought out for that occasion. The teacup was silver with black skulls, and it had a chip with a hairline crack. There were also an emerald brooch, a remarkably beautiful diamond necklace, a string of pearls, and an onyx ring, all possessions of their ancestors, all treasures their mother had kept in a wooden box in the vault and brought out for that occasion. The altar was filled with many tapered candles of different heights in silver candlestick holders. Those candles seemed to burn more brightly than the others. The light was almost blinding, which had been Gothel's intent. She didn't want her sisters to have to see their mother's portrait if they didn't want to. She would have done away with the altar altogether for that celebration, but she didn't want to anger her ancestors any more than necessary. She was already afraid they would be offended. The witches were not celebrating the longest night under the cover of dark and solemn contemplation. Under the tree was a pile of gifts wrapped in red and silver paper, with black bows and little white tags. There were even gifts under the tree for their guest. It had all been seen to by Jacob, who wanted to be sure that no one was left out of the festivities. Gothel was astounded by Jacob's attention to detail, and had to admit she was utterly dependent upon him.
Now, if you ladies would like to follow me to the dining room, dinner is ready,
said Jacob. The dining room had a blazing fire in the fireplace, casting light and shadows on the harpies carved into the stone wall. The room was warm, even with the windows open to reveal a spectacular view of the courtyard that had replaced the conservatory. "It's so lovely in here, Jacob. Thank you."
"Come to the windows. I have something to show you,"
he said to all the witches. Gothel could see just beyond the courtyard, in a small greenhouse near the carriage house, the light of the Rapunzel flower, amplified by the greenhouse windows. She'd almost forgotten it existed, with all the renovations and vexations about her sister's health. She wondered if the visiting witches knew what that one tiny light was. She started to become nervous. She hadn't thought what it meant to have other witches in her home, and on her grounds so near the flower. Did they think it was a candle for the Festival of Lights? Or did they know the flower was their secret? Jacob could see that Gothel was concerned, which in turn concerned him, but within moments, other lights started to appear in the courtyard. That, not the flower, was the surprise he intended to share with his witches. Each one of the formerly frolicking stone dancers near the fountain was now holding glowing candles in their stone hands, and in the center of the fountain was the Gorgon, surrounded by floating candles, illuminating her gleeful grin. It was a beautiful spectacle, and then, one by one, lights started to appear throughout the woods. Thousands of candles lit up the entire forest, all held in the hands of her devoted minions. It was remarkable, not only the brilliance, but the show of power to her guest. It was like an endless sea of light that stretched out as far as they could see. "Thank you, Jacob. Thank you for everything you've done for us this night, and every other since the passing of our mother," said Gothel sincerely.
"It's my pleasure, my queen."
Gothel noticed Jacob had been referring to her as his queen since the arrival of the Odd Sisters. She was almost eager to get the evening over with, so she'd have an opportunity to talk with him alone. Thank you so much for listening. Please remember, like, subscribe, ring that notification bell, share with a friend, comment down below. And remember, let it go and keep moving forward. Have a magical day. Bye.